I need this after what I just watched. So, Civil War wasn't really on my radar per se. Like, I'd see glimpses of it here and there on social media. I had people asking if I'm going to be watching Civil War, and I'm like, the bloody hell are you on about? I watched that back in 2016. And my stupid ass saw the poster for Civil War with the flame of the Statue of Liberty, with all the sandbags around it, war going on, and I honestly thought, and forgive me for what I'm about to say, it was like a Roland Emmerich disaster film. This is the complete opposite. Civil War comes to us from director and writer Alex Garland. Now, if that name rings a bell, he actually wrote the novel The Beach. Not the Danny Boyle film, but the novel, which then eventually became the film. He then also went on to write 28 Days Later and Dread from 2012, which I think is a criminally underrated film with Carl Urban as Judge Dredd. So he's got some pretty good writing credentials under his belt. So this time around, he's writing and directing Civil War. Now, the basic premise of Civil War, we see a group of journalists in a dystopian America, which is going through their second civil war. They are going from New York to Washington, D.C. to interview and photograph the president, played by Nick Offerman. Now, this isn't your normal president. This is like a dictator, taskmaster president. And this is one of those films where it's definitely about the journey, not really the destination, but the goings on along the way, people they encounter and people they come into contact with, and just the situations these journalists get themselves into. Now, we have Kirsten Dunst playing the character of Lee, who is an award-winning photographer. We've also got Wagner Moira playing Joel, and I didn't realize this is the guy from Narcos, who also went on to become that meme of Waiting Forever. We also have supporting acts from Stephen McKinley playing Sammy, and also Kaylee Spaney as Jesse, an aspiring photographer that I guess you could say, is an apprentice to Kirsten Dunst's lead. Now, when it comes to the characterization of Lee, Kirsten Dunst does a phenomenal job, and I have heard like people saying her performance is quite wooden, but you got to understand she is a journalist and a photographer that is in the thick of a war-torn America. She sees some shit. She sees people getting killed execution style right in front of her, and she has no choice but just to take photos. It's her job. It's all part of the game, and you can tell that she is just trying to hide and bury so much, and it's all in her facial expressions. Like, she could crack at any moment. Now, before I go any further, there have been hints that there's like a political agenda with this film. I don't really get into politics. I'm not really educated on politics. I kind of stay in my happy little bubble, my little happy place. Some people may see that as a good thing, some people may see that as a bad thing, but to me, I just wanted to watch a damn good film, and that's exactly what I got. And let me preface this film is not going to be for everyone. The subject matter is extremely heavy, it's extremely gritty, it's hardcore, it shocks the senses, it has a score that relies on booming drones, but at the same time, it relies on silence. There's a scene at the beginning of the film where something happens, and it is dead silent. There is no sound. You could almost hear your hair grow in the cinema. That's how silent it was. So it's an assault on the senses, but in the best way possible. The budget for this film is $50 million, and it dead set looks like $150 million. I don't know if it's one of those things where they utilize abandoned industrial spaces and deck them out to make them look like they've been war-torn, overrun. But the film looks fantastic, and they definitely utilized every single penny for this film, which is quite impressive to see. Actually, let's have a look where they filmed this. I'm quite intrigued. So, location. Filming locations, Atlanta, Georgia. Like, everything's filming out in Atlanta at the moment. Atlanta, Georgia, Philadelphia, London. Okay. Big Bethel, AME, Atlanta, Georgia, Hampton. Okay, all right. Not what I was expecting, but I'm guessing they were utilizing abandoned spaces and stuff like that. Things are just riddled with graffiti. We have these beautiful set pieces that just encapsulate if America did indeed go through their second civil war. The film does this thing where it, in my opinion, injects a bit of levity. You'll see people getting killed and just horrible acts of war and scenes of war. And then it's accompanied with an upbeat soundtrack that almost rivals the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, if that makes sense. Just that kind of upbeat tone as there's just absolute carnage going on up on the big screen. And I think that just adds a bit of levity just to kind of give the audience a bit of breathing room. In the back of my mind, I kept getting hints of The Last of Us. I think that was a subconscious thing because the bloke that plays Joel is named Joel, and he reminds me a lot of Pedro Pascal. We also have Nick Offerman playing the president. He was in The Last of Us, and we are dealing with a dystopian kind of war-torn, overrun, post-apocalyptic America. So there were elements of The Last of Us, which definitely isn't a bad thing, but you know when just something like lingers in the back of your head subconsciously, and you're like, oh yeah, I kind of see that. This film clocks in at an hour 49, and it's a solid, beefy hour 49 where there are hints of breathing room, where you get a bit of exposition between certain characters, and then it's straight back into the action. It's an exhausting, anxiety-inducing, hardcore cinematic experience. Again, this is not going to be for everyone. This will probably be a one and done for some folks, and this may be a regular on people's rewatch list. For me, I think I need to give it a bit of time before I rewatch this again, which isn't really a bad thing. It's more or less just I was physically and mentally drained from what I saw on screen, which just means the film affected me in a way it was supposed to, I guess. I think if I had any gripes, it would be I wanted to see more of Nick Offerman's take on the president, but I think it'd be one of those things where it's too much of a good thing and it leaves a bit of mystery and leaves you as an audience to interpret what he's doing behind the scenes and what he's doing when he's not on screen. Like, he definitely doesn't have a lot of screen time, but when he's on screen, it's for a reason. So yeah, guys, in the end, Civil War was an absolute pleasant surprise. Again, the subject matter is extremely heavy, not for everyone. Like I said, this may be a one and done for some people, and then a massive rewatch for other folks. But the production value is brilliant. The fact that they did this on a $50 million budget, kudos to everyone involved. Kirsten Dunst turns in a very stoic, brutal and intense performance, and it's nice to see her do something like this. Like, gone are the days of Mary Jane Watson. It's definitely one of my top films of 2024 so far, so thoroughly impressed. I highly urge anyone where this is their jam to go check it out. Definitely check it out on the big screen. Those action scenes are intense, the sound is booming, with a score that relies on a lot of droning tones and also silence at times, but you also have a soundtrack that kind of gives a bit of levity to just the sheer horror that's going on up on screen. Across the board, performances are great, thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, a nice little surprise for 2024, and with that, I'm going to be giving Civil War 4.5 Ron Swansons out of 5. So guys, if you do happen to check out Civil War, let me know your thoughts down below. Again, it's not going to be for everyone. Political stuff aside, like, I don't look into that. Again, I just wanted to be entertained and shocked and have a bit of a mini anxiety attack. And that's what I got. So cheers to that. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.